Welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast, your source for information on hunting, fishing, and all of your outdoor passions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Mike Anderson here, along with my co-host Solomon.
What's up?
And Ashley.
Hey, Mike.
How are we all doing today?
Living,
that's it?
Get busy living.
I'm doing great.
Get busy dying.
How are you?
I'm fantastic, and you know why? Because it's one day closer to hunting season.
Ooh.
It's true.
Yes, it is.
We got
And
a perfect guest today.
We do have the perfect guest for that today. We have Mr. Brian Klatt, archery shop manager from the Sioux Falls store. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Like I said, it's
Still
one day
fantastic.
closer to archery season.
This is true.
You have your hour timer counting down yet? How many hours you got?
Ooh,
until
there you go.
Till you can hunt
Countdown
opening day?
calendar timer.
Anybody? I might be the only one.
I'll get there. I don't have that. I'm not very good with the whole like timer and calendar.
Just
and
the old roll out of
all
bed
that
at 4 o'clock.
stuff.
And
Yeah,
make
kind
it
of fly
happen.
by the seat of my pants guy, but
That'll work.
it is what it is. So anyways, rolling this back, Brian, can you just talk to us a little bit about what it is to be an archery shop manager and what you enjoy most about your job?
All right. I always wanted to run my own shop and was going to probably look at doing that 7 years ago, and decided, well, I'm gonna jump into SCHEELS and just see kind of how that is. Wasn't probably looking for a job that is more, retail, but really liked the industry and liked everything that we do at SCHEELS. So just jumped into it, and it's like running your own shop. You get to deal with all these people that have the same likes and same passion as you, or they're just learning how to get into that. So they're all interested in that first little spot of how to do it. So that's the coolest part.
And when you say running a shop, you mean like you were interested in starting your own archery shop, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's super cool.
What's your favorite part about working in the bow shop?
It'd be the people, kids, getting interested in this, whether it's target archery or it's hunting or it's just recreational flinging arrows, with their parents or whatever. But that's the coolest part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always fun to just get somebody into archery for the first time. I remember when I first started shooting a bow, it was like, I was just a little kid, get into the garage and I see this, old traditional bow hanging there and, ask my dad what this thing is and show him how to use it. And next thing you know, I was flinging around hundreds of arrows into the yard trying to shoot sparrows and whatnot. Other
Into the
birds
house,
sitting.
into the fence.
No, I never went at the house. I was pretty good with that.
Good.
Yep. I think out of about 3,000 shots, I got one bird. And then when I actually got one, I felt terrible about myself. And but, got over that now. Now it's like pretty much turned into a full-blown obsession.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Brian, what first got you into archery?
I figured that question would come up, and it's there's a couple of us that my friend's dad, he had that small little room downstairs, had mounts of deer and geese and ducks and pheasants and everything on his walls. But downstairs, he had this little room, and he had all of his coyote pelts, raccoon pelts he used to trap. And that really got me interested. We'd see a couple bows hanging on the wall, and until we got big enough to where his son and we started drawing those back and flinging some arrows in the backyard. Thought that was pretty cool. So enough to where we could save up for, at least I saved up and got my first mail order PSE. So from Bow Hunters Discount Warehouse, that was pretty cool. So kind of got hooked from there and just went on from that.
Nice. Great to hear. So not counting the current bows we have, like the newest, best of the best, what's your favorite bow you've ever owned?
Oof.
How many have you owned?
I've owned a lot. I've never really even thought about that question.
Is it a triple digit number?
How many digits?
Is it a 3-digit number?
You know what? Probably not that many.
That would be
Not
insane.
that many. Most definitely, probably into the hundreds. Probably, yeah. I do all
Hundreds is 3 digits.
That's
there,
3 digits,
Brian.
yeah.
Oh, 3 digits. Yeah. So, it's one of those things that I also collect some bows, some of the older ones, which is pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of bows. My favorite one is probably an old Hoyt. It was a Super Slam. It was back with Fred Eichler edition Super Slam. It was a pretty cool bow.
Is it your favorite because of how it felt, or just because of animals you harvested with it, or something, or what?
Whenever I think about old time shooting, kind of I had all these other bows growing up, and it was, they're always trying to get something better, but that one probably felt the best back then. And had, huge palm swell in it, so it was great for torquing your bow. But, it was a compound bow we shot fingers with, because the old releases were, it's like holding on to a bar of soap, with a couple calibers on the end. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have progressed throughout the years. And, after asking that question, I need to share my favorite bow.
Let's hear it.
It's
Yeah.
I'm kind of chomping at the bit here. So
Okay.
it is I think it was either an 85 or an 86 model Browning bow. And it was the first compound that I ever had. It was right after the old green recurve that I found in the shed. And I got it from my uncle Wendell. And what was crazy with it is, he lives in Tennessee, and he had it down there, and he'd come to visit once every summer. And then he saw I was shooting this recurve bow, old school recurve bow, and that I was pretty into it. And there was also, he'd talk about stories of what's going on down there, and he's got these squirrels down in Tennessee that are white squirrels. They're not albino, they're just white ones. And I didn't really believe him. So, like 6 months after he had, came up to visit and came back down, we got this giant package in the mail. So inside this package was the bow, that older Browning bow with like the, like they would just like wheel cams that would turn over, and he put in a first gen rangefinder where you had to turn this dial and like things would line up when it was the right distance. Just old school, awesome stuff. But also in this package, like we dig through the peanuts a little more, and I saw this eyeball poking back up at me, and I'm like, what the heck is going on right now? Well, it turns out that he got 2 of those white squirrels with his pellet gun and mounted them and also put them in that package. So we have 2 white squirrels mounted in our garage right now.
Nice.
Because I didn't full on believe his story, and then he had them mounted and sent to me.
I was so hoping you were going to say that they came in the mail.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't think that bow will ever be beaten. And yeah, the first time I took it out hunting, I pretended to walk like a deer and grunt like a deer, and I had a 6-pointer come up to me at like 20 yards, read the script, looked away, I pulled back, and I released that arrow, and it shot like 6 to 8 feet above his head into the abyss. So it's just
Dialed in.
else. So, yep, that not gonna be able to beat that bow.
That's awesome. Did you start? I mean, it sounds like based on your story, you started getting into archery mainly for hunting rather than target practice.
Oh yeah, it was mainly hunting. So
Did the target side of things evolve for you kind of as you progressed throughout archery just in general, or are you still into target at all, or not really? Or
the target thing, 3D animals, but that's more for hunting. So it was always for hunting, only until I started getting my kids involved. And of course, they had to get up to a certain poundage to hunt, in the state regulations. Back then it was 40 pounds. So they needed to draw the bow back when they were, 10, 11, 12, just to try to get them up to that weight.
Gotcha.
So because of that, we got them into target archery.
Gotcha. But have you done any indoor stuff or anything like that? Or like you said, mainly just sticking with 3D and hunting related scenarios for when you're practicing?
Just leagues, just indoor leagues, 3-spot, Vegas and 5-spot NFA. So just local leagues.
Stuff to carry over in the off season?
Correct.
Gotcha.
So for the people that don't know what this 3-spot and 5-spot are, can you just kind of dive into the basics of that?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. I looked over and I saw a little bit of glazed eyes
3,
there. I'm like,
5, Vegas. Huh.
Yep.
Okay. We're talking
no
gambling.
idea what we're
No.
talking about,
Numbers,
but I'd
letters,
like
all
to
of it.
learn.
So I mean, there's a lot of different games that you play, indoor, outdoor, target archery. I'm not even going to get into them all, but of course, most National Field Archery Association, the NFA, more bow hunter related than you would typically think. Olympic or USA style archery, FIDA type stuff, which is typically meters. But this stuff is NFA, what your local small shops and small towns, they'll usually have, like an indoor target league, 20 yards, and you're shooting either a single spot, blue and white face. White is your center. Okay, so it's going to be a 5. Even to think about the scoring, you've got a 5 and a 4, and there's multiple rings in it, so it kind of gets a little out in the grass here to explain it all, because then you got to explain everything. But there's 5 arrows shot at that target for a possible 300 score, right? But there's other ways to add more points to that, so everybody kind of blends it a little bit differently. The Vegas spot is a colored face, so I mean that's your traditional, your gold, your red, your blue, gold being in the middle, and usually that's either 330, 360 depending on, and that's usually shot with 3 arrows. So it's nice that it's two games. One of them's a little easier than the other. Of course, it's a bigger target, the NFA, the blue and white, but you got to shoot 2 more arrows, so you fatigue. It's always fun because it's you get pretty good at it, but then you got to stay and not fatigue. Otherwise, you start dropping shots, pushing shots. It's a mind game after a while. So,
and then you got to translate that back into hunting once season kind of rolls around again. Because that's what this was the first year I ever did anything indoor archery related at all. Just was 100% bow hunting outside beforehand, but did kind of like what you said, a local league here. First time ever doing it. Shot, there was an indoor 3D league, and then shot a Vegas Face 2, I believe we did. But shooting indoor, like as an actual competition at the Archery University, which we talked about in the last podcast episode, that was the first time I'd ever done something like that. Like the 20 yards, like actual timer, like all that jazz. That was cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It makes you be very it's work. It's not necessarily just, well, some people may think it's relaxing, but boy, when I start shooting target and you're trying to be a perfectionist, of course you want to hit the middle every time. It takes a lot of work on your form, work on your bow to keep it consistent, work on your arrows to be a higher quality, better consistency, all these things, so it's kind of like a guy that goes out and shoots his rifle, a few weeks or a few times a year, but he doesn't reload. Or you're talking about a guy that goes to the bench rest shooter that reloads all of these different things for that precision piece. And that's kind of where archery's kind of evolved to, is we all want more precision. And a lot of that has to do with us, but of course the bows have gotten a lot more efficient.
That might answer my next question here, but do you see more people getting into the target side of archery now in the last couple of years, or is it still more people just starting out archery and bow hunting?
Yeah, I would say that they're probably getting into more target archery, though there's so many things today that are fighting for your time, which, whatever it is, from restaurants and just local activities in the towns. Well, 30 years ago, you didn't have that much activity. So what else can we do? So I feel like there were larger club-based shoots. So it was maybe more popular there.
Sure.
But now with the onset of, like your total archery challenges, things that are real, what am I looking for? Skill leveled stuff, long distance shooting. They're asking a lot out of you with a shooter and the bow to try to shoot targets, hunting targets, of course, not two-dimensional faces or anything like that. So, yeah.
It's like any sport. You have to put the time into it. When you go golfing, you don't just show up at the course. You got to go to the driving range, or you should.
Unless you're me and just play once a year.
Unless you're Solomon, then that's what you do.
I just show up to the course.
Okay, well, bad example, I guess. Most people.
The last time I went golfing, it was for a SCHEELS tournament, just a marketing tournament, just for fun. Like, no money on the line, no prizes or nothing. But I should have left every club at my house except for my putter. I was just worthless until I got on the green. And then I made 4 putts that I had no business in making. So I got to contribute to the team.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely should practice.
You're right.
You should definitely practice with archery too.
And part of it is having the right equipment and having your equipment ready.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So getting it tuned, things like that. Is that something, maybe Brian, you can enlighten me and the rest of us of, the bow techs at SCHEELS. What do they do? Yeah. What is the importance? How often? Some of those questions, I guess.
Because when I started, I had no idea of that same stuff. I was a relatively late onset bow hunter, 6 years ago maybe or so. And I thought you just bought a bow and you're ready to go. But now getting into it more, please elaborate a little bit on the importance of getting a bow actually fit to you. Yeah.
And even this gets into a deep subject, which is kind of funny because it's, this is where it's evolved to. It's kind of like vehicles, really. Way back in the day, we could all probably work on our vehicles, in different things, on different aspects. Nowadays, you don't touch those things unless you're truly educated in all these different parts. And some of the bows are kind of that way too. But now we're asking higher speeds out of our bow for shooting the arrow at a higher velocity. And because of that really pushes the limit on string material, whoever the manufacturers are. But and those strings, as they either stretch or as they settle, and depending on if it's a custom string, not just a stock from the company string, but some are made, a little bit differently than others, a little bit thicker material, some a little smaller, less strands, from 22 strands to 25 strands, 26 strands, different types of material. So things go in and out of tune, or they don't really go into tune, but
that would be nice.
I wish mine would go into tune.
Pretty easy, and it's kind of, I always try to find analogies, but there's not really the best one. But newer bows, we're asking so much out of it that it does need to be looked at probably a couple times a year, but it also depends on how much you shoot. But it should be looked at least a couple times a year at the least, And there are certain timing marks in different areas and things that you can look and check on. I'm always a proponent of measuring brace heights, measuring your axle to axle length, measuring from your axle to your knock set or to your string loop or to your peep sight, just to have something to go to, because there's one day you're going to go out and you're going to shoot and your arrow's going to be a foot off and you don't even know where to start. And those are little points you can start from. But now, of course, maybe you still don't know what's going on, and you can take it into a pro shop or one of the shops, and really we can get down and take a look at that. So
from, like I said, somebody that started just basically walking into a pro shop or a SCHEELS or something like that wants to get into archery and might not have shot much before, or just hasn't had their own bow, like, why is it so important for somebody to like talk with a SCHEELS expert to like get a bow for them, like set up for them, like not just picking one off the wall, taking it home and putting accessories on it and trying to shoot? Like, why is it so important to get it set up for a specific person?
Yeah, it because they're fitted a lot, probably there's a lot of different styles and sizes, from riser lengths, axle to axle lengths, that are better for long draw, so taller people, shorter people. If you want speed, if you want something that's smoother, of course, it's kind of like the solo cams, back with Matthews when it really put them on the map. Solo cam, you have an idler wheel and a cam, and it was smoother drawing bow, and it still had speed back in the day, and that was pretty cool. And it was really outfitted, I believe, for the majority of where your hunting base or bow owners were at that could afford that bow back then, and it was your 30 to 50-year-olds. Well, you're also wanting a smoother bow because you're kind of asking a lot out of your shoulders, which in those ages you're probably asking a lot out of those shoulders, and whether it's anything from rotator cuff or any of that kind of stuff. But that made it popular. It's just that now we want speed and we want easy drawing, but there's so many different models, so many different bow manufacturers, that we can really pick and choose or give you choices of what you want specifically to what that person's build is, height is, strength is, and what they're actually asking out of the bow. If they're really hunting with it, or if they're just leisure, shooting archery for leisure. So
yeah, I'll throw my brother under the bus here real quick, but I have also dove into archery a lot, like I said, in the last couple of years, just the specifics and the timing and the tuning and all that jazz. And he bow hunts too, but he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants the bow to shoot, and he wants to be able to bring it to the stand and hunt. So for a person like that, it's still obviously very important to get the bow set for them, like you were saying, based on if they want a little bit smoother of a draw, maybe a little bit more speed, obviously set their draw length correctly, set their poundage correctly, the peep height and all that stuff. So it's obviously still super important for somebody that gets a new bow or a used bow or anything that hasn't been set up for them to bring it into a SCHEELS store or something like that and talk to an expert to get it set up. But there's also a fine line of like how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with like getting super crazy, like I was saying, because he doesn't care about how much his arrow weighs. He doesn't care if he's shooting a mechanical or an expandable, or a mechanical or a fixed blade broadhead. So there's a fine line of like how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely, and that's that way with a lot of things. But a gun, I mean, yeah, you can go but most of these guns, we don't fit two people. I mean, some people, some things we do. I'm not even gonna get into the whole gun thing, but it would be like an adjustable stock. Adjustable heel of your stock or your comb. There's so many adjustments to make sure that it's fitted to you properly. Otherwise, it's a detriment to your how you draw, how you shoot, how you hold. how you aim. So it needs to be fitted, and they're all pretty specific. So
I'm guessing, I go to SCHEELS and I could pick out the pretty one that I like and, take that off. But then my strength is going to be different than the next person and my height and everything. So it's such like an intricate thing. It's like such a precise and intricate.
And even just going to grab a bow off the wall, whether it's the pretty one or not,
Right,
I guess,
yeah.
you can, those bows might have a draw length adjustability from 24 to 30 inches, right? And so it might be set right in the middle, but you might be on the low end. So if you try to pull it back, you might not even be able to get it all the way back. So
Sure.
somebody it's their first time doing it or something like that, that's why SCHEELS is there to help customers get it to the right spot so they can actually shoot the bow. Not just
Properly.
picking one off the shelf, taking it home and expecting to be able to use
Right.
it. That was my mistake right away when I first got into it, because I just I'll get a bow and go shoot it. And I did, and it didn't work that well for the first couple of years until I figured it out.
And now, do different brands also have different strengths for, I don't know, each of us? Does a certain brand work better for you? And then, I don't know, or do they all cater to everyone?
Brian, you can probably speak to that more. Yeah.
That's a great question for Brian.
Yeah.
That question comes up a lot, and really, again, I like to throw the analogy. It's a car lot that sells Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, all these different manufacturers, and I still would tend to believe that 60% of buying the bow is just in the feel, the grip alone, maybe a little bit of cosmetics to your own liking, but just in the grip alone and how it feels in your hand. Then you go into, some of the other aesthetics of it, of the cams, I want it to be fast, or I want it to be a little less top heavy, or you can do that with all these different accessories. So every bow company, they'll make something that's trying to hit those, different people, the different clientele, and it's up to the salesman to go ahead and show them all those different options. And really, it comes down to either a price option or it's what's available.
I feel like you should be blindfolded while you're.
I was actually
Yeah.
just thinking about that same thing.
I'm that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Put a blindfold on me. This one's comfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
When you head to the archery shop and you shoot a bunch of bows, I've found out that you find that one that you release that arrow and just go, oh, this is the one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one. Yeah.
If you're blindfolded, you might not be able to pick the pretty one, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You got to put a blindfold on me. So it's nope, this one is the one that feels good,
Yeah.
So.
All right, Brian, I got a little exercise for you. All right.
Wonderful.
So we got 3 customers here. Ashley, Mike, and Solomon. We all want to go get a new bow. So Ashley here has never shot a bow before. You are, how tall are you?
5'2".
5'2", and she wants to just start going to the range and start practicing. She's a little bit afraid to shoot animals, loves animals a little bit too much, but isn't afraid to shoot some foam. So what is the first bow you would take off the shelf to show to her to have her shoot?
So she doesn't want to hunt. You said she didn't want to hunt animals yet?
Not yet. Maybe
Yeah.
or never.
I'm not opposed to it. No, not opposed to it at all.
There we go. All right.
I'm not going to harvest them.
For the exercise, yeah.
Yeah. She likes taking her bow for
Personally,
nature
yes.
walks.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I'm really good at that.
But I do
just-
precision and things like that, so I could see myself really getting into it.
Maybe getting into target down
Yeah.
the road. Okay. Mm-hmm. All
First
right.
bow.
We have tried to qualify Ashley as
yeah.
a customer. So what bow are you picking off the shelf?
Well, then I would probably either do, I would probably do the Prima, the Matthews Prima, or possibly an Elite Ember, either one of those two. If she had deep enough pockets, Then
My husband's buying, so yes.
Yeah. Spend it all. We want those SCHEELS gift cards.
yes, exactly.
I got the Visa, yeah.
So, like I have my daughter shoot an RX-7, which is just in a smaller cam style. So, I mean, we can get some of the nicer bows, but I would say it all depends on, do you want to just start into it? Because you can always, this is a sport of upgrades. Archery is a sport of upgrades in pretty much all facets, including the bow. And the bow, even if you can sell it a year from now when you think, boy, I really like it. Now I want something that costs quite a few $100s more. And maybe you want a carbon riser or something. Even in like the carbon rose or any of the knockouts, any of those would be fine too. So, yes.
I better write these down here.
You're basing it on draw length and poundage and just basically what she's going to want to be doing with it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, how about Solomon? Solomon, you
6'6",
are 6'6".
33-inch draw, wants to hunt, wants to look cool while he's out there. All that.
See, Solomon, this is the problem with 30-plus inch draw length, especially the 31, 32. Then we're looking at a little bit more specialty bow. Most definitely like either a Hoyt Ultra, or it would be something like an Atlas, a Matthews Atlas, or even a Lift 33. It could jump into Bowtech's. Some of their longer drawed bows. So,
do you have any of those?
I have had an Atlas. That was a nice bow. I like that. But then, like you said, a sport of upgrades. So I'm always trying something new. So I've had an Atlas, had a Hoyt Highline, which I like that as well. But the one I've settled on for this year and last year, I guess too, I used it. But the PSE Mach 34. So that being at the end of the cam at 33 inches that's where I'm sitting pretty right now.
Sure. No, that's
all good options.
Yeah, that's a great bow too. Absolutely.
And then we got Mike.
Nice.
What you got? Give us your persona.
Give
Let's
us
hear it.
your
I'm gonna
credentials here.
All right, here we go. So I'm 6 foot. I have a 30-inch draw length, and I spend a majority of my time hunting whitetail, often from a tree stand or a saddle. I'll also go out of a box blind, sometimes a ground blind, but I like to be elevated. And I love hunting mule deer in the Badlands. So I need to have a bow that's going to be able to handle both of those. I spend a lot of time thinking about the Badlands hunting, but actually hunting whitetail. Most of my shots are generally not super far, but I really want to be able to reach out and touch that, feel really confident shooting about 75 yards out in the Badlands. And, it can be windy, nasty, gnarly out there. What bow would you recommend for that sort of hunter?
Well, yeah, you're covering a lot of bases there, so there's a lot of options. Most of the time, Western hunters, when you're talking that little bit further distance and all that, and Western hunters, they want stability, which is going to be in a longer axle length. You're already, did you say you were 29-inch draw?
It's like 29 and a half, 30.
Okay, so 30-inch draw. We want that string angle to fit you good. Just so you have correct form for the longer shots and that. But, that would be either, I'm still a fan of an RX-8, the carbon Hoyt. That's going to be smaller, but you could jump up into an Ultra. Smaller, and we put back weights on it, a back stabilizer, stabilize it out, make it a little bit heavier bow, but there's a couple different ways we can go. Usually anything 30-inch draw, I like to be in that like a 33 or a 34 inch axle to axle bow. So most definitely the Lift 33, but I wouldn't rule out a Lift 29. at least in Matthews.
For the box blind
Or an
situations.
Alpha X30.
Yeah, I do spend some time in a box blind. As much as I love hunting out west, I spend more time in a blind.
Yeah, I'm a fan of smaller bows. Something in that 30-inch, 29, 30, and then running back stabilizers. My bow's heavier than most of the guys that I shoot with, but I know it's not moving anywhere, and I can get it in and out of things. I like to spot and stalk a lot of things, and it seems like that's what I go after, even though I might tree stand hunt, and those are, you can kind of use anything because I can always trim limbs out of the way or whatever. But with back stabilizing and stabilizing systems nowadays, you can make these smaller bows really stable in your shot for a longer distance. So I like that.
That sparked a question that you kind of already answered a little bit, but can you make up for the fact, so like say you're looking at a lift 33 versus a 29 or whatever, can you make up for the fact that you would have a shorter axle to axle bow with weight and stabilizers? Does that kind of equal itself out a little bit, having a heavier, smaller bow versus a lighter, taller bow?
Oh, well, it does. It does balance out a little bit like that. The thing that doesn't would then be string angle, of course.
Sure.
And the other thing is I always wanted the consistency of a longer axle bow. That's why target shooters shoot such long axle bows. But you go out and you're chasing mule deer and you're trying to come up to the top of a hill or something like that, and now the wind's blowing 40 or 50 mile an hour, and it's hitting the upper part of your riser with your quiver on, possibly. That's all drag.
Now you got to sail in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. So they all have their pluses and minuses. It just kind of depends on what style of hunting you're doing, and what you want to do. That's a great place to have one of each, really.
I love this that Brian had no idea, though. One of each, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
There's that.
That's the one thing that stuck with me. Buy
You
one
put that
of
in writing,
everything.
I'll hand it to my fiance. We'll make sure.
You have to have a bow specialized for each sort of application. I went through my qualification process, and I was like, I need about 6 or 7 here.
Yeah, I need one for each of those. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, so each of those that ties into my next question for you, Brian. So, have you shot basically every of the main brands that SCHEELS carries?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I am going to give you a brand, and then I want you to give me your favorite attribute about that brand. So it can be like comfort, quietness, stability, speed.
Yep.
This is my favorite attribute for this brand. So I want to start out with Matthews.
All right. So probably my favorite attribute of it would be that the draw length with the switch weight mod system, it can be changed to pretty much 50 to 80 pounds in a mod swap in your bow. We haven't had that, ever. Except for, back when they first came out with a switch weight mod system of 5-6 years ago. But that is a pretty big key thing. I think the shootability of the bow is great. I like the weight of it. I like the aesthetics of it, how it looks, how it holds. You look at it sideways, like if we're talking about the lift, you look at it sideways and it vanishes. It's die cut pretty heavily, and it's pretty amazing. But that would be my highest attribute of it is just the switch weight mods in draw length and poundage.
Okay.
And why is that so important?
So, perfect example is I'm going to go on an elk hunt, and I have my backup Matthews with me, my backup lift, but I'm using my primary bow, which is a Hoyt RX8. So
So we do need 2 bows.
I'm helping you guys
Yes,
prove
I
your
like
point. Okay.
The point is I could outfit that Matthews for the other 5 guys in my group. I could have a module that fits their draw length and poundage, and now that bow I can fit to any of them. So it's a lot easier. Plus, let's say your resale value or the ability to resale of it, you can fit it into so many other people. I don't even know how many years ago, 6. I don't even know how many years ago I had shoulder surgery. I had both Matthews verdicts and had Hoyt. I don't even know which one it was back then. Probably yards.
I was gonna guess 3.
It might have been a 3, possibly, but I couldn't shoot my Hoyt, and I needed to go down in poundage to about 50 pounds just to rehab my draw or drawing in my shoulder, and I couldn't do it. The Hoyt sat over in the corner, and my Matthews I could get different mods for, so I could sit there and I hunted with that bow for a few years just until my shoulder got better. So
Makes sense.
Good
Versatility.
answer. I like that.
I do too. Next one, Hoyt.
Hoyt. So I'm a fan of carbon, and I'm pretty nostalgic just with Hoyt and Easton, Earl Hoyt, just the whole growing up that way. They're a legendary company, USA made company. So I guess my biggest attribute there is just the history and the nostalgia of the company. And even though the riser is not made here in the U.S., but I need a carbon riser. I usually cold weather hunt, and there's a big deal to say that I can have just a small glove on and hold that riser where I've had other bows freeze to my jersey glove before up in my stand. I mean, it's just, that's it.
Mm-hmm. I'll vouch for that one too. I've been shooting carbon bows for quite a while, and I have a hard time letting go of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Bowtech. Your favorite attribute about a Bowtech bow?
So that one there, it would probably be the adjustability in their axle. I think they're one of the sleepers out there in the bow community. I like what they do with our military. They really back our military very well, and I just like the adjustability right there on the fly with their axle based.
Is it deadlock?
Yeah, deadlock. Yep. So.
Yeah, is that like one of the, like, you see a customer bring a Bowtech into the store for tuning, you're like, yes, it's a Bowtech. It's so much easier.
You know what? It's sometimes actually yes, but more when you're out at the range.
Oh yeah.
Because now I can deal with it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In the store, people bring stuff in, and we usually have things that we can adjust and we can tune it there. But it's something that you're not just going to have out in the field, where that you can adjust to the field. So pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely. What about PSE?
Yes.
Well, again, even their newer ones. Again, I'm a fan of history, and I mean one of my first bows. Well, it probably would have been my second or third, but Pete Shepley was big deal back then, and pretty nostalgic and with PSE and the company, and mock flights. Back in the mock flights, I think I had a mock flight 1 or whatever it was. Now I most definitely had mock flight 4s, but nowadays their carbon riser, amazing. What Dudley's done there through Knock On, it's amazing. That's give that guy kudos. He's done a great job. And they have what's their
The Easy
actual shim is swap
Easy
set.
220.
Swap. Yeah, that's it. So, but that's a pretty neat system too. It's making it all easier to tune. So
There we go.
How about Elite?
Last but not least.
Nice.
Elite.
Good work.
Well, because he was going to set me up with one, so I wrote it down here.
there you go. You know,
Taking notes, I like
with
it.
different draw stops, limb stops, their cam again, they have an axle adjustment there. I think that system is a great system. It's even sometimes I'm surprised that it hasn't caught on to other companies. Of course, Bowtech has their own, but it's I think that's their biggest attribute is their let off up to their back of the wall when you draw it back. Shootability is great, but I kind of like the way that the axle tunes.
Which of the Elites have where it rotates in the limb pocket, the adjustability for that? Which of their bows have that? Do you remember?
Jeepers.
I think
We're really putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Brian.
And
Very valid question.
Brian, you didn't have a heads up on these questions either.
Yeah.
No,
Kudos.
So this is, so people should know that.
You know, Kairos, the Ethos, those been amazing bows, and what they do. So I guess that's what I would say, even just those few there.
Nice. All right. I have one last question for you, Brian.
Yeah.
Can you tell me your elk hunting story?
My elk hunting story.
Yep. I saw that bull you got last year.
No,
want the
I didn't
story.
shoot a.
What?
No. I'd love to tell you an elk hunting story. I only have one elk hunting story, and it was not successful. But I mean, it was successful calling one in.
That's a plus.
But the other guy didn't shoot. So, but he was not where he was supposed to be. So
Oh,
that was in New Mexico.
well,
Dang.
I guess I was misinformed. Tell me your elk hunting story, though.
So we had a guy another salesman. He used to run camping. He was super guy that used to work here, and him and I, his name was Mike Franken, and he passed away quite a few years ago. We went to New Mexico and really wanted to hunt elk, and I told him, I said, well, let's go down to the bottom of this basin. And even though nobody else wanted to walk that far down, we took the extra few hours and walked all the way down Santa Fe Indian Reservation, right on the border there. And we said, that's all we heard, elk were down there. So we called this elk in. I told him he was going to be the shooter, and I was the caller, and that he needed to be by this tree, and it was about 30 yards away. I said, if this elk comes on this logging road, he's going to put him at 20, 25 yards. And that elk came right on a string. And I was behind a very large boulder. And I had a Montana decoy setting up about another 15 yards over to my right. And as I was calling, this bull comes in. That bull was, was he a 350 bull? He was probably just shy of it, but he was most definitely 3 to 350, somewhere in there. Big, heavy 5x5. And called him out of the reservation, came on that trail, stopped right where he should have been. Of course, I thought he was going to see me, and he was on a ledge to where I just had, probably the bottom 6-8 inches of his back, his neck, his head. He stood there for, it seemed like a few minutes, and I'm just like, shoot. And my buddy wasn't shooting, and I was just wondering he must be too close. The elk's right on top of him. He can't move. Elk didn't do anything, just kind of looked around, and I grabbed my bow, tried climbing up on this rock. I drew back, had my pin, 20-yard pin, settle on his eye, on his temple, on his jugular, and I was like, I have no shot. And it's just one of those things that the bull just gradually turned away. I let up, couldn't get up on top of this rock to get a shot. And I had no idea where Mike was. And I looked back and he was like 60 yards away. So I was just like, I put my hands up like, why weren't you where I put you? And he come up and he tackled me, and he was like, that was the best thing ever. And pretty awesome. Even though we didn't shoot it, it was pretty cool.
That's still an awesome story.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
There's just something about being up there or being out there, being able to experience those things. You really can't get it anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And for everybody listening out there, if you're not following the podcast, make sure to hit that follow button. Also the same with our social channels. And if you are looking for anything, any archery needs, make sure to check us out online at SCHEELS.com or visit your local SCHEELS store.
And go talk to Brian.
And if you're in the Sioux Falls area, go talk to Brian. And with that, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Stay tuned for future segments and visit our social media pages, SCHEELS Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates.